Log4j, SL4j kind of thing. If entity information dot new entity, if it is a new entity object, em dot persist entity, save object operation, nothing but insert record operation. This em dot persist internally uses Hibernate code. Okay, na? Return entity, whatever object that is saved having identity value, you return the object. Else em dot merge entity, update object operation, nothing but update object information. Here em is nothing but entity manager object that represent whole underlying ORM software, nothing but what? Hibernate. This represent the whole underlying ORM software, simply nothing but what? Hibernate. I hope you got it, guys. It is say, listen, we don't have, look at the list of methods that are there. In this list, is there any update method, guys? No. But that does not mean we cannot do update operation in what? Spring Data JP. We can do update operation, right? Yes, definitely we can do what? Update up. Are you getting my point there or not? Yes. EM means entity manager object. EM dot merge entity. EM dot merge entity. Are you getting my point? So save method is used in two angle. If object database record is not already there, it will insert the record. If that object database record is already there, it will update the object. But how does it will check? It will check record available or not by taking ID property value. Having ID property value, if there is a value in PK column, if there is a value in PK column, then what happens? A record insertion takes place. Otherwise, a record updation takes place. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Come on, everyone. Save object operation, insert record. Update object operation, updating record. Yeah. EM dot persist internally uses what, guys? Hibernate API to perform what? Save object operation. What operation, guys? EM dot merge internally uses Hibernate API to perform what? Update object operation. Are you getting my point there, guys? The internal Hibernate API uses JDBC code plus SQL queries to complete persistence operation. Okay, on the DB table records. On the DB table record. Okay. Save method is internally calling entity manager object dot persist, entity manager object dot merge. Sir, that's fine, sir. But why this @ transactional? Array, @ transactional makes this code either committing the data if everything goes smoothly, or rollbacking data, whatever inserted data, partial data, if something happens wrongly. If something happens wrongly. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on, everyone. @ transactional performs commit operation on database software if no execution is raised in business method. If no exception is raised in business method, otherwise it will roll back data changes of database software if the exception is raised. If the exception is raised. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Come on, everyone. Got the clarity, my dear? @ transactional. EM dot persist entity. EM dot merge entity. Convinced with me, boss? Come on, everyone. Super. Okay. Entity class 1 per DB table. Repository interface 1 per DB table. Service class 1 per DB table. 1 per module. Service class is 1 per module. Okay. So final conclusion is what? Spring Data JPA save method definition is using em.persist em.merge method by checking whether that entity object is a new object or old object. How does it checks? Takes the ID property value and checks in PK column of the table. Having this ID property value, record is there or not there or not there. Okay, it will think object is a new object. So it will be forced to go for em dot persist method call. So nothing but record insertion take place, not directly. Em dot persist is invoking what? Hibernate code. Hibernate code internally generates what? JDBC code plus SCL query. What query? JDBC code plus SCL query. That's great. No, it will call what? em dot merge method. Yeah, what this merge method will do, guys? Simply perform update operation. Okay. It will internally uses Hibernate code. Hibernate code internally generates what? JDBC code plus update SQL query to update the record that is already there in the DB table by taking primary key column as the criteria value. Primary key column as what? Criteria. In true repository, there is no separate method for update object operation because save method itself can be used for both save object operation and update object operation. Okay. Entity manager object is a JPA object that encapsulate entire underlying ORM environment like Hibernate. Okay. And like Hibernate and also provides API and also provides what API to perform objects based persistence operation. Objects based persistence operation. Objects based persistence operations. Everyone getting my point there, guys? Come on, everyone. Okay, guys. Yes, okay. No, this is the code, guys, that we developed. Okay, let's see the flow of execution. Let's see the. Yeah, this is repository, guys. Let it be. Yeah, I'm assuming for this repository interface, the in-memory proxy class will be generated like this, not exactly like this. In-memory proxy class as implementation class of what? Our custom repository interface given by JDKR CZlib libraries. See, public class proxy to in-memory proxy class on the top of what? Repository. It is internally becoming Spring Bean, boss. Implements iDoctor repo and other interfaces. To that, I have injected what? Entity manager object or not? Not I injected. Internally, it is injected with what? Entity manager object. Okay, this entity manager object comes through auto configuration activity or not there? Okay. The JPA's entity manager object will come as Spring Bean through auto configuration based on what? Spring Data JPA starter we added. This entity manager also holds data source object internally, which also comes through Auto configuration, which also comes through auto configuration. Everyone getting my point there or not there? Yes, this is my repository injected with what? This is my repository injected with entity manager. Entity manager injected with data source. That means to which database it has to talk. That is drastically decided or not, guys? Definitely decided or not, guys? Okay, there. Yeah, transactional is applied. If everything goes smoothly, commit it. Completely insert record and update record operate. Something goes wrong, some problem has come, some exception has come, roll back the things. What is there, guys? Simply, literally roll back the things. Are you understanding my statement, boss? Come on, everyone. Yes. Okay, guys. Tell me. At the rate transactional, here is what? Over. Public yes extends T, save yes entity. What entity, guys? Yes entity. Assert dot not null entity. Entity must not be null. Are we already discussed this, right? EM dot persist entity internally uses session dot persist session dot save of Hibernate API to save the object. Hibernate API to save the object. Are you getting my point there? EM dot merge entity internally uses session dot merge of Hibernate API to update the object. To update the object. Are you getting my point there, guys? Super, guys. Tell me here. Public class session IMPL. It is Hibernate code, guys. This is in a Hibernate. Yeah, see, guys. EM dot persist method internally uses what? Hibernate session dot save or plus session dot merge. Let's see. Public wide persist object throws Hibernate exception. Check open. Connection is open or not. Okay, then fire persist is there. New persistence event something that internally generates what? JDBC code plus insert SQL query or update SQL query. Insert or update SQL query. What is there? Insert or update SQL query to insert the record in DB table. To simply literally insert the record in what? DB table. Yeah. Are you comfortable, guys? Come on, everyone. Okay. So I'm assuming this kind of in-memory proxy class will come dynamical at runtime in the memory where application is running. Nothing but JVM memory. Where this will come in the memory where application is running. That is seriously nothing but JVM memory or not, guys? Come on, my dear. Come on, I want reply from you people. Okay, in the memory where application is running. Okay, that's great. So let's see. Other 11 methods are implemented using what? Entity manager object. Are you getting my point? So final conclusion is what? Data source object is injected to. Earlier we worked with the data source object, but now we are not working with any object because we are not developing DAO class. We are getting dynamic in-memory proxy class acting as DAO class. To that one entity manager is injected, to the entity manager data sources. We are getting full advantage of abstraction or not, guys? Entity manager object. And entity manager object is injected with what object, guys? Data source object is injected with data. Oh, I think reverse. Oh, is injected to. Is injected to. Dynamically generated in-memory proxy class object. Dynamically generated in-memory proxy class object. That's great, guys. Come on, everyone. Okay. JPA internal uses Hibernate. Hibernate internally uses what? J. Yes or no, na boss? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Regular service interface implementation class that is calling save method. A regular application dot property file. Okay. Client application. Maybe today I have not taken runner, I have taken what client. That's not a big issue. Okay, boss. Now let's see the flow part, guys. A, we run the application. Everyone focus. A, we run the application. B, main method. C, bootstrapping Spring Boot application. In that C, C1, IOC container creation. Okay, inside Spring application dot run method. IOC container is created or not, guys? D1 takes given main class. What class, guys? Takes given main class as the configuration class. Takes given main class as what? Configuration class. Because of what? At the rate configuration annotation. Are inside at the rate Spring Boot application annotation, at the rate configuration annotation is there or not there? D2 loads the main class and creates the object, makes it as what? Spring. Simply and literally makes it as what? Spring Bean. Simply and literally makes it as what, guys? Spring Bean. Is that clear, my dear? Come on, everyone. Okay. IOC container creation, D1, takes the given main class as configuration class. Because of at the rate configuration, D2 loads the class and creates the object as Spring Bean. Are at the rate configuration is extension of at the rate component annotation or not? That's right. Okay, boss. E reads application dot property file content to environment object. Yeah, this it will happen automatically. Locating application dot property, reading its content, storing into environment object. It's internal process. You don't do manually. Okay, now at the rate enable auto configuration. Yes, Spring Boot application annotation makes the following classes as what? Spring Bean based on the jar file that are added to what? Auto configuration process. Yes, now boss. Hikari data source pointing to Oracle JDBC connection pool. After all, we have kept Oracle JDBC driver details or not. Entity manager, it won't create objects. Wait a minute. Entity manager encapsulating, that means holding, encapsulating means holding. The activated Hibernate session factory session object, Hibernate session factory session object, and also contains what? Injected data source. Also contains 1 minute. In object creation injection, we will discuss later. We'll make it. Only Java classes as Spring Beans. Still objects are not created. Only marking is happen. Okay, multiple other classes become what? Spring Bean. Not only these two classes, multiple other classes become what? Spring Bean. Uses application.properties file data through environment object. What object, guys? Environment object. Uses application.properties file data simply through one, guys. Environment object. What object, guys? Environment. Okay, guys. So ultimately what? Making classes as Spring Beans. That's it. Still, they are not created. For them, objects are not created. Object creation generally takes place as part of pre-instantiation of singleton scope Spring Beans. Yes, now boss. See, object for configuration class, environment object, internal activity that happens. But remaining things are there now, they will happen slowly. Okay. So they are just recognized as what? Spring Bean. Okay. Next most important thing, guys. What is that? E. Look at this F. Where is F? F also we discussed. Okay, now G, guys. G is very important. G1, G2. Yeah, G. At the rate component scan of Spring Boot application annotation detects or scan the following things in the subpackages of what? com.nt, where that annotation is there, that one. Number one, Dr. Manager Service IMPL class as Spring Bean because of @service. iDoctor repo as what? Custom repository interface extending from repository interface directly or what? Indirect. Yeah, once it notice there is an interface extending from repository interface. In this process, Spring Data JPA generates in-memory proxy class as shown above with a repository annotation having JPA persistence logic for all the core repository methods. Like above I have shown in-memory proxy class code. Yeah, that has become Spring Bean because of @repository interface now, boss. But still classes are recognized, generated and recognized. Still objects are not created, right, boss? IOC container perform pre-instantiation of singleton scope Spring Bean. In that process, following Spring Bean objects will be, Spring Bean class objects will be created. A, Ikari data source object. Okay, Ikari data source object, right? Yes. Entity manager object. Doctor service IMPL class object. Proxy to class object. In-memory proxy class. Because of @repository, guys. Come on. Okay, guys. Created or not created, boss? Yeah. These two things are happening because of auto configuration. And these two things are taking place because of what? Stereotype annotation. Though it is ready-made one, okay, but the annotation that is coming on the internally generated class is what? At the rate deposit. Yeah, this is because of auto configuration. This is because of this is because of what? What is this? Stereotype annotations. Because of stereotype. Earlier classes are recognized as spring bean. Now all the singleton scope spring beans are what? Pre-instantiated. Okay, next one. As part of this pre-instantiation, necessary injections also takes place, boss. Entity manager object is what? Ikari data source object. Proxy to class object, nothing but in-memory proxy class object with what? Entity manager object. What object, guys? Entity. In-memory proxy class object with what is this? Entity manager object. Super. Service class object with what? Proxy to class object. Nothing but repository object. What is the object, guys? Repository object. Okay. All are injected or not, guys? Entity manager data source, proxy to class object with what? This, and service class object with what? Proxy to class object. Like this, all necessary injections takes place or not, guys? All singleton scope spring beans will be kept in what? Internal cache of IOC container. Service bean ID object reference. Another bean ID, it's a reference. Another bean ID, it's a reference. Are you getting my point? Okay, keys are nothing but bean ID, values are nothing but what? Spring bean class object references. Are you getting my point there? That is a J. Okay. Programmer, okay, we'll see that later. Okay. And once all these are done internally, it returns what? IOC container object back na boss. Super. Here onwards flow is regular one. L, we are calling get bean method doctor service. It will search for that in the internal cache of IOC container. Available or not available? Yes, available. It collects that one or not, my dear? Collected En. Okay. After creating entity class object boss with the data, we are calling the business method register doctor. Okay, which is available in the service class, my dear. Control goes to what? Service class P, register doctor P. That internally calls save method, my dear. Come on. That internally calls what method, my dear? Save. Doctor repo not save. Repo means what? Repository object. Nothing but what, my dear? Nothing but what? I want reply, guys. The method that is there in repository interface. In-memory proxy class, guys. That is R. Okay, right now it will check whether it is new object or old object. Let us assume new object. It is calling persist method of entity manager, my dear. Super, guys. Entity manager persist method internally calls what? Session dot persist method. What method? Okay, if you want, I will give source code of what? Entity manager persist also. Can I give that? I think slowly one by one is revealed now. Spring data JPA save method internally calling entity manager persist method. Entity manager persist method is internally calling Hibernate save method. Hibernate save method internally generates what? JDBC code plus SQL queries. JDBC code plus SQL query. Here is my crude repository, guys. Here, control plus shift plus T. You want to open source code of a class which is not typed in the editors, which is seriously not typed in the editor. Then we have to use what? Open type is the option. Enter type prefix, whatever. You don't know exact class name, but you know little words of the class name. Then you can search over here. To search and open the source code. This is very useful. What is there? Entity manager. It's basically an interface, boss. Okay. Let's open that. Let's open that. Tell me. It will be having implementation class now, boss. Open implementation. Okay, so many implementations are there. Entity manager proxy is there. It is, oh, no, I'm looking for classes, right? Entity manager. Entity manager is there. Sub interface. Hibernate. Okay, yeah. Yeah, what is the class name? Session IMPL is the base class, actual class name, na boss. Okay, so that means, listen, already I have given, I am in a feeling not given. Actually, this entity manager is implemented by whom, guys? Session IMPL. Already that session IMPL is given here or not, guys? Check it out. Session IMPL implements a session is there. Not only session Babu, it also implements what? Entity manager interface. What interface? It also implements what? Entity manager interface. Many other interfaces, but mainly. Entity manager mean it is the object of a class given by underlying ORM software implementing JavaX dot JPA dot entity manager interface. Are you getting my point there, guys? Okay. So this persist is internally implemented. This persist is internally implemented. Are you getting my point there, guys? In session IMPL class. What class, guys? Session. Okay. Not. Entity manager object me is the object of a class given by underlying ORM software like Hibernate. What, guys? Like Hibernate. Underlying ORM software like Hibernate. Implementing JavaX dot or Jakarta dot. Jakarta dot JPA dot. What is that? Entity manager interface. Interface. Directly or indirect. Entity manager interface, directly or indirect. Are you getting my point there, guys? Jakarta.jpa dot entity manager interface, directly or indirect. Okay. Okay, guys. Now open the source code of a class which is not there, whose name is not typed, whose name is not typed in the editors of Eclipse ID. Editors of Eclipse ID use, what is this? Control plus Shift plus T. Control plus Shift plus T. Control plus Shift plus T. Okay. Let it be, guys. Now tell me here. em.persist is originally implemented in what? Session IMPL class. What class, guys? Yeah, here is my what? Persist method. Persist method is internally calling what? Fire persist. This fire persist actually generates what? Update or insert query to insert the record in DB table or not, guys. Okay, that is T, and T is T1 is what? Query generation. Internally uses JDBC code plus what? What is there? Insert SQL query. That is done, boss. Come on, everyone. Okay, once that is over, after T, the control comes back or not? T, S, T, U. It is a returning entity object, right? The return entity object comes to service class method V. That is returning one to whom? Main method of the client application. X. We are displaying the result Y. At the end, you are not closing container. At the end of the application execution, everything will be vanished or not, guys. If you call ctx.close method, container is closed. In that process, all objects will be destroyed. So this is the ultimate flow of execution or not, guys. Okay, see this? Programmer uses Spring Data JPA repo.save method that internally uses what? em.persist method. What method? That internally uses Hibernate API. What is there? Session.save. That internally uses JDBC API. Insert query na ts dot prepared statement dot execute update. That generates what? Insert SQL query. And lastly, what happened? DB operation takes place. These many layers are there. Here, repo means repository object. Session means Hibernate session object. EM means entity manager object. TS means what? Prepared statement object. Shall we see the flow one more time? Number A, run the application. B, main method. C, bootstrapping of Spring Boot application. We are doing bootstrapping of Spring. Okay, C1. In that process, by taking given main class as configuration class, IOC container is created or not there. Next, D. Takes the given main class as the configuration class. Yes, na boss? Number 2. Loads the class, creates the object, makes it as a Spring Boot. That is T2. E. Reads application.property file content and stores its content into environment object. At the rate enable auto configuration of Spring Boot application annotation. Perform the following operations. What operations, guys? Number one, Hikari data source object. Not it creates it recognizes Hikari data source as Spring Bean. Entity manager as what? Spring Bean. Okay. Next. Other things, boss. But while making them as Spring Bean, it uses what? Various entries of application.property as inputs and directions are not there. As inputs and directions. Okay, next one. G, guys. Iterate component scan annotation of Spring Boot application annotation scans the following things in the following things in the 1 minute in the current and sub packages. In the current and sub packages. In the current and sub packages of com.nt. In the current and sub package of com. In that process, recognizes service class as a Spring Bean. Okay. And observes repository interface is extending from what? Repository interface directly or what? Indirectly. Directly or what? Indirectly. Are you getting my point there? Observes repository interface as what? Directly or what? Indirectly. Are you getting my point there, guys? Yeah. In this process, Spring Data JPA generates in-memory proxy class. Okay, implementing what? Custom repository interface. Indirectly implementing what? CRUD repository. Writes Hibernate based persistence logic or JPA based persistence logic for all the 12 methods are not, guys. But on the top of it, at the rate repository is there. In that process, that class also becomes Spring Bean or not, guys? In that process, this class also becomes what? Spring Bean. IFC container performs what? Instantiation of singleton scope Spring Bean that are detected at areas level. First, Hikari data source object, entity manager object, service class object, in-memory proxy class object. Entity manager object is injected with what? Proxy2 class object injected with entity manager object. And service class object is injected with what? Proxy class. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Come on, everyone. Super. Okay. Next. All singleton scope Spring Beans will be kept in the internal cache of IOC container. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on, everyone. Will be kept in the internal cache of what? IOC container. Are you understanding my statement, boss? Come on, everyone. Okay. Will be kept in the internal cache of what? IOC container. That's great. Okay, boss. Then container creation process completed here now, boss. Container creation process completed. On that we are calling ctx.getBean method having bean ID. It comes to internal cache and checks whether is there any bean ID having bean ID doctor service there. There, boss. There are not there. Okay, boss. We are getting access to that bean object reference. That's good. We are calling business method register doctor having super. Okay, here business method execution takes place now, boss. P that internally calls what method, guys? Doctor report not save method. What method, guys? Doctor report not save method. That is Q, right, boss? The save method is there in what? In memory proxy class. R, right? The save method is there in what? In memory proxy class. That is what? R. It checks. Given entity object ID property value is already there in PK column or not. Let us assume not there. Then it calls em dot persist method. Nothing but hibernate persist method only it is calling now, my dear. That is internally calling fire persist event. Okay, that event internally generates JDBC code plus insert SQL query. Okay, boss. At the end, saved entity object will be returned from save method, na boss. That goes to service class method call V. That generates a message W. That message comes to whom, guys? That message comes to whom, guys? Client application X. Displays the message or not? Y. Displays the message or not? Y. Okay, at the end of the application. Anything great in this, guys? No. Everything is regular stuff here or not, guys? Yeah. To see the source code, this. To see source code of certain class that is used in Eclipse Editor, F3. Once the source code is open to get the list of method, Control O. To get the hierarchy of the classes, F4. Yeah, these are the finder methods that we are looking for. These are the various finder methods that we are looking for. Out of 12 methods, these are finder method. Find by ID, exist by ID to check whether record is available or not. Find all by ID, count method. Yes, na? But before launching finder method, there is something called save all method also. Let's finish that save all. Then we'll get into finder methods, right? Okay. Okay, save all means bulk insertion, guys. Group insertion. Suppose 10 people are going on trip. So if you go to railway ticket, they do group booking or not, guys? Bunch of 10 students joined in the course at a time. It's better to insert one by one person or better to register all people at once. When you go for bulk booking only, there's a chance of getting continuous seat number. When you go for individual booking, the software system may not give what? The software system may not be give us. Yeah. This is my persist, this is my what? March. Let it be. Okay, let's go for save all method, guys. What method? Save all. Save all is a ready-made method, guys. Okay, 1 minute. I'll show that method first. Open this. Where is this? Save all method in crude recall. This method is given for bulk record insertion or bulk auth. Generates multiple insert query to insert multiple record. That's quite common, right? Yes, my dear. Save all given entities. Parameter must not be null and must it contain null. You should not be null and you should not keep any one element as null also because it is expecting what? A trouble. A trouble is super interface for all collection. Indirectly we can pass list collection there, right? Readability is super interface for all collection. Returns. The saved entity will never return null. The return will same size as a double pass it to the argument. Array, when you pass single object, we are getting same single object having ID value. When you pass multiple objects, you will get what?